All right, circling back to our top story, Pakistan mediators are in Tehran to try to salvage peace negotiations between the U.S. and Iran ahead of President Trump's ceasefire deadline.
The truce is set to expire in less than a week. Washington has denied reports it's seeking to extend it, but confirms discussions with Pakistan for more talks are underway. The developments come as tensions in the Persian Gulf escalate, threatening to derail the pause in fighting.
Oil traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has slowed to a trickle as Iran continues to pose threats to passing vessels and the U.S. enforces a blockade on Iranian ports. And we are joined by Ian Parmeter. He's a research scholar at the Center for Arab and Islamic Studies at the Australian National University. He was also formerly Australia's ambassador to Lebanon. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us. So Mr. Trump says the deal is near, but we've heard similar optimism before. So based on where things stand, do you see any real signs of a breakthrough, or is it still premature?
Well, everything in the Middle East involving optimism is often premature. But I think in this case, what we have is that both sides actually do want to reach some sort of agreement. But what we have in the Gulf at the moment, in the Gulf and also the Strait of Hormuz, is akin to a Mexican standoff where both sides are pointing guns at each other. Now, at this stage, the US blockade is preventing Iran from exporting oil through the strait, but Iran in turn has said that it will prevent the Gulf Arab states from exporting oil as well. So both sides realize that that's untenable for the long term. And I think a reason to be optimistic on this occasion is that reports indicate that they are now discussing the possibility of, the Americans want 20 years for Iran to be without any nuclear program at all. And the Iranians are saying that they might accept 5. Now, to my knowledge, this is the first time that Iran has actually contemplated pausing or giving up its nuclear program in this way. It's previously accepted the idea of going down to 3.67%, which is what's needed for normal civilian use. But not to give it up completely. It's always demanded its right under the Non-Proliferation Treaty. So I think both sides want an agreement, and I think we can be hopeful. But being hopeful doesn't necessarily mean one is optimistic. A lot of things can always go wrong.
Well, Ambassador, I want to ask you about another potential choke point as well. Iran has talked about the Red Sea, threatening to also choke off traffic there. Is that a real threat? We know the Houthis, have and can attack ships, at the Bab el-Mandab Strait. It hasn't so far. There have been an isolated 1 or 2 incidents, I believe. How far does Iran's reach extend, if you like, beyond the Persian Gulf?
Well, I think that's a real threat. Saudi Arabia has talked in terms of using a pipeline that it has going across the country from the oil fields in eastern Saudi Arabia to Yanbu, one of the ports in the Red Sea. Now, Iran is able to exert influence on the Houthis. It doesn't actually control them, but the Houthis have worked previously on behalf of Hamas. And also essentially assisted Iran. So I think there is a genuine risk that the Bab el-Mandab, the Strait of Tears leading from the Arabian Sea into the Red Sea, really could be blocked off. So it's not a way out. At this stage, really, we'd have to get to a full agreement, I think, and that's what we hope will be negotiated in the next couple of days. I should say, by the way, that these negotiations can really take quite a while. Iran is a very tough negotiator and very, very good at doing that. I was when I was in government, I was privy to the negotiations that led up to the Iran nuclear deal in September 2015, and they took 2 years to get to that point. So it really is a very difficult process. But as I've said before, the big advantage at the moment is that both sides appear to want a deal, and we may actually get one. But let's see.
On your point of Iran's nuclear ambition, Ambassador, the benchmark remains the 2015 JCPOA, it seems. Is a stricter, long-lasting deal actually realistic today? And if not, what was the point of this war?
Well, that's a good point. Trump will need, this is President Trump, will need to get something better than the 2015 JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action that Obama negotiated. Now, a 5-year moratorium may be enough for him to say that is a victory, and these moratoriums can be extended. Of course, there are other ways in which that they've talked about, perhaps Iran enriching uranium as part of an international consortium. But the other big problem will be that Iran has enriched some 400 grams of uranium to 60% purity, which is actually very close to weapons grade. It goes up exponentially. It's 90% is weapons grade. So the United States wants that 400 grams to be either diluted down to civilian grade, down to 3.67%, which could be done, or taken out of the country. So that really would be a sticking point, because 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium could actually be enough to make 10 nuclear weapons. Now, that doesn't mean that they distribute their weapons, that they can fire them, but it would be a very dangerous development for the region.
Right. That's a huge concern as well, Ambassador, for Israel, which is, of course, conducting what seems to be almost a parallel but separate conflict with Hezbollah in Lebanon. I know that the New York Times is talking about suggestions of a ceasefire, but I'm wondering, will this conflict be part of, the major negotiations, or do you see it being hived off and talked about as a separate issue in the days and weeks ahead?
I think the Americans would like to hive it off, to have that as a carve-out and essentially be worked out in negotiations between Israel and the Lebanese government. But I'm pretty sure that Iran would not agree to that. Iran set up Hezbollah in 1982, and it sees it as being absolutely vital to its overall strategy for defending itself and confronting Israel with Hezbollah's ability to mount a second front against Iran. So I think another complicating factor is that Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, of course, is heading into an election quite soon. The elections are due by November this year, but will almost certainly be held sooner than that. One of the reasons being, of course, that October will be the anniversary, the third anniversary of the attacks of the 7th of October 2023, which Netanyahu won't want to remind people of. So, and for Netanyahu, the part of the war, the purpose of the war in Lebanon is to to actually restore his own security credentials, which were very badly damaged by that attack nearly 3 years ago. So actually persuading the Netanyahu to cease those attacks is going to be very difficult. And that's going to be quite an issue in terms of the negotiations, I think, that might be held. I'm quite sure that Iran will demand that the fighting in Lebanon cease as part of any agreement that they might reach with the Americans.
Understood. Just one of many moving parts to this story. Ambassador, we leave it there for now. Thank you so much. Ian Parmeter is research scholar from the Centre for Arab and Islamic Studies at the Australian National University.